Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2. On today's video, we're looking at Atari STs. Atari's very inexpensive 16-bit line of computers. There are various ones here to look at. What I want to do in this video is triage these machines. One of them is actually booted up and working. It's this bottom one, my Atari 1040 STE. This is one I've actually had for a number of years. I bought it locally years ago off of Craigslist, and it always just worked. It never had any kind of faults. It was just very yellow, as these machines can get. I have it hooked up though, just so I can make sure that everything is working with my capture setup and whatnot, because I want to test all of these other Ataris, and you always got to make sure that your capture setup is working well. There are a number of machines to look at today, first of which is an Atari 520 ST. Still in a pretty cool box. I've never actually seen this box. This one that's sitting here, this is the Atari box that I've seen before. I have another 520 ST and it's in one of these white boxes. But this box with the color graphics on it is pretty nice. It's showing off the 512 colors that the original ST can do. This is rather heavy. I'm gonna prop it on the desk there. An original 520 ST. This needs an external floppy drive. It does not have an internal floppy drive, these early models. This one and a bunch of the other machines come from James, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. I also don't think it's relatively complete inside the box. This might be just the computer, or there might actually be two computers in here. I can't really remember, to be honest, but yeah, James gave me a bunch of Ataris just recently, which is why I have to go through this whole triage process, because I need to know which work and which don't, so I can mark them as to fix, and that way they'll show up on the main channel as repair videos. Anyhow, just a few things about this box that I really like. It says incredibly fast, expandable, extensive software library, high resolution graphics in color and monochrome, and it's easy to use. Includes 2 or 4 programs for a $200 value, paint design program, word processing, and 2 languages. So I guess basic and basic again? I don't know. Anyways, yep, that's pretty cool. If you're not super familiar with the ST line, it's a 68,000 base system, so 16-bit external data bus, that is. It supports up to 4 megabytes of RAM. These early models only had 512K. That's what the 5 is. I don't know, the 20, I don't know what that is, but there's a 1040 ST and that has a meg of RAM. These early models were not easily expandable. They had soldered RAM chips, so you had to kind of come up with very creative solutions to potentially upgrade them to 4 megabytes. Machines like the 1040 STE, which is on my bench here, this actually uses 30-pin SIMs. So it supports 1 meg SIMs. You can have 4 megabytes of memory right on board, very easy to upgrade. It also has a blitter, which none of the earlier machines had. So unlike, say, the Commodore Amiga, which came out the same year, 1985, the ST is using the CPU running 8 megahertz to push all those pixels around. So the graphics performance are not as good as the Amiga, but back in the day, a lot of games were sort of written for the lowest common denominator, which was the ST. So the code was sort of cross-ported between the two machines, and a lot of Amiga games didn't take advantage of all the graphics horsepower on the Amiga, and you kind of got not great looking games, or animation wise, because they were ST ports. Games like Shadow of the Beast on the Amiga really took advantage of all the custom hardware on the Amiga to really push the limits, and that would be something that the 1040 or 520 ST, these Ataris, wouldn't be possible to do. But compared to the original Amiga 1000, which came out in 1985, same year as the 520 ST, which is this machine on the top, the Atari was quite a lot cheaper. The Amiga, though, got cheaper as the years went on. In fact, when the Amiga 500 came out, I was doing a little bit of comparison reading, and people can comment down below if I'm incorrect about this, but it seems that the price of the 520 ST and the color monitor, the color Atari monitor, was about the same as the Amiga 500 with the Commodore 1084 monitor. You could get the Atari with a monochrome monitor that was cheaper and it was high resolution and stuff, and a lot of people did that. They were just doing like MIDI stuff or word processing. That was a great solution, and that was definitely cheaper than the Amiga. But color for color, 2 machines that were color, both about the same price, and the price is the same between a 520 ST and an Amiga 500. Well, I mean, it's hard to argue that the Amiga is not a more powerful computer. It's a slightly slower clock speed, but all of that horsepower and all those co-processors inside allow preemptive multitasking, all sorts of extra capabilities, and the Amiga is very expandable, has a side connection and plus a RAM port on the bottom, so you can go to 1 megabyte really easily, but you can plug stuff on the side like accelerators and all sorts of other things without having to modify the inside of the computer, which was required for these machines. Anyhow, that's not what the focus of this video is on. The focus on this video is about testing these machines. So we had that first box that we looked at. There's another 520 ST, or I think in this box, I'm not sure. We'll figure out when we open it up. There's another 520 ST, and this one came actually from a different viewer. This is from viewer Philip, and this was sent in quite a number of months ago. It might have been last year, actually, and I can't remember if I've tested this or not. So that's why it's here in the pile. Then on the top of the pile, we have another 520 ST, and incidentally, these skinnier ones that don't have a built-in floppy drive also don't have a built-in power supply. So they have a really sizable power brick that you need to use to run these, while the later machines like the 1040 and even this 1040 ST and my 1040 STE, and I think even later 520s had an internal power supply, internal floppy drive, probably to make it a bit more cost reduced. And that's actually a nicety because the internal power supply is just an IEC mains input, and you don't need that huge external brick like so many computers back in the 80s. So anyhow, this is from James. This is a 520 ST, as I said, and it says bad IC yellow. So we'll have to see about that. Then on this pile here, we have a 1040 ST, a very yellowed one, and it's missing a couple keys. This is not an STE, so 1 meg of RAM. It's not an FM, so it doesn't have a built-in RF modulator, and it's not the STE like this one that's running right now, because this has the blitter, as I mentioned, and the RAM expansion and stuff like that. This motherboard is different than the smaller machines, and one thing about these larger Ataris is you plug the mouse on the bottom here. It actually plugs into the mouse, and the joystick actually plug in the bottom. They plug into the keyboard. Kind of unusual, kind of annoying. Although I suppose once you plug this in once, it doesn't really matter, right? As I've mentioned, missing keys. The lid doesn't seem to be screwed down on this one. Doesn't say anything about what might be wrong with it, so we'll have to figure that out. And the last machine is this one. This is an Atari Mega ST2. This comes from Big Steve. I have no idea if this works. Unfortunately, I am missing the keyboard for this. Looks like it's something that plugs in with an RJ11 or RJ45, or I don't know, some type of phone style jack. That would be the keyboard connector. And I'm pretty sure the keyboard for these are extremely rare. These have an internal power supply. What do we got in the back here? I think all just the usual stuff. External floppy port, but this does also have an internal floppy drive. And I think this is very similar or the same as the 1040 STE, the one that's running there on the bench with the blitter and the 4 megabytes of RAM. All of these 16-bit Ataris with 68,000s could only address up to 4 megs of RAM, as far as I'm aware. Amiga could go up to 8 megs. I mean, the address space on the 68,000 is 16 megabytes, but just the way the memory map's laid out, that just like on the original Macintosh, 4 megs is all you could do on these. I think the Atari Falcon, which was a 68030, that can probably address more memory. I don't know. I don't have one. I've never used one, so I don't really know about that. But the STE is kind of a nifty machine. Has a real-time clock. I don't think any of these other ones do, so there is a compartment for some batteries, and the door is missing, but I'm sure we can 3D print that. But as far as I'm aware, finding the keyboard will be next to impossible on this thing. Warranty void, so someone's been inside and there's something floating around in there. So I don't know if this thing works. I've had this for a while too, never tested it. As far as I'm aware, the signaling for the keyboard is exactly the same as this keyboard, the one that's on these other machines. These machines have a little DuPont connector, if I recall, for the keyboard. You just create a little harness that goes from that to this, and then theoretically, you could use one of these keyboards. So I suppose one possibility is, say, taking one of these machines, just taking the motherboard out and using this as the keyboard for that machine. I mean, that would be kind of strange, and I'm assuming that the keyboard that's actually for the Mega ST probably looks just like this, but without this back part here, you know, which has all the extra motherboard stuff on it. So it's probably a similar size and thickness and ends probably about there. Perhaps there are other adapters that you can use, like PS2 keyboards or USB keyboards and stuff like that, although there are some keys on the Atari keyboard like help and undo that you don't necessarily have on a regular PC keyboard. So I don't know how useful that is to do, but it's probably better than nothing. And certainly this Mega ST is kind of a nifty machine, and I like the form factor because of course you can just put a monitor on top of this. So from a desk space perspective, The wedge computers are cool looking. I love how they look, but I do not like how they take up lots of space on your desk. Specifically because when you put them there, all these cables come out the back and you want to have your monitor there. You need a little stand for your monitor so the cables all go underneath. It's not super convenient. Things like this where the monitor just sits on top, much more convenient. The cables just stay out the back. They're near the wall. You don't have to like worry about all things unplugging and stuff like that. And I'm not noticing any kind of connector for the joysticks or the mouse. So again, it must be coming from the keyboard, which I'm assuming the keyboard in this machine would not be compatible actually, because I don't think this keyboard has the connections for the joystick and the mouse. Those are back here. I think the ones in the larger Atari STs are the ones that have the keyboard or the joystick and mouse integrated into the keyboard. I'm sure there are folks watching who are Atari ST experts who probably can tell me a little bit more about how that might work. This right here is a power brick for the 520 ST. It is simply massive. I think it's a switch mode power supply, so it's heavy but big as well. And it uses a reverse DIN connector, so who knows, it probably gives 5 and 12 volts, I would imagine. I'm sure there are aftermarket ones available if that's what you need. What I wanted to check is inside these boxes to see what's in here. This is the cool box with the graphics on it, and it looks like we actually have two machines in here. This is a regular 520 ST. Yes, it says red light something. So I think that one's not working. Case is screwed together at least. And the other machine is this one, which is another 520 ST. Also the slim version or the early version that needs the external power supply. White screen, sometimes boots. Okay, so some of this triage has already been done, I think by James, because these came from James. And then this one here, I think this one might be complete, if I recall. Well, and by complete means it's got the styrofoam, it's got some books and stuff. I don't have a mouse. What's weird is all of these Ataris, no mouse. Now, I do actually have a proper Atari ST mouse that I got with the 1040 ST, I think, or maybe I bought it somewhere, I can't remember. But I spent a few minutes looking for it just now, and I couldn't find it. So I definitely need to spend a little bit of time to see if I can find the mouse. I think you can actually use the keyboard to move the mouse around. This 520, by the way, it's an FM model, so 520 ST FM, and it means it has the RF modulator built into the machine. I think otherwise, no real difference. This thing is in grubby shape, dirty, but not that yellowed. That's kind of nice. And because it's the larger version with the internal floppy drive, oh gosh, these are so heavy. It's so funny how heavy these are. Internal floppy drive means that there's an internal power supply in here. So that's kind of nice. So I have one power supply for the 520 ST among all these 520 STs, the slim ones that need the external supply. Okay, the last machine is the one that Philip sent in, which I might have already tested. And if I did, I'm sorry about that. It would have been a while back and I didn't do what I should do and label it. Oh, maybe it is labeled actually. So this might not be one we actually test. Looks like we have some manuals here. Oh, cool. Okay, so in the one from Philip, we have a mouse. That's nice. And I think this is a large ST, and it's the full-size one, just like the one we looked at before, like an STFM with the built-in power supply. And here is the one from Philip in a nice bag, and there is a note in here. And the note from Philip says, here's the Atari ST. It's a functioning computer. It's capable of 1 meg. I installed socket years ago, but I never added the bypass caps or the memory. Hopefully you can finish it or use the keyboard for another project. And yep, some other stuff. So according to Philip, this is a working machine. And yep, it's a 520 STFM. And it also has the very annoying and strangely yellowed keys. I think that's just because like when these keys are manufactured, they're in different batches. And well, it's just uneven yellowing for some reason. And it's just amazing when all the shielding is installed. Unbelievably heavy, these Ataris, just unbelievable. So when it comes to how many Ataris I'm going to be testing today, excluding the 1040 STE, which I already know works, so I don't need to do anything with that. We have this one from Philip, the Mega STE from Big Steve, these 3 STs, 520 STs, I'm sorry, from James, and then these 2 that also come from James. And let's see, 520 ST and a 1040 ST. The most yellow on the back is a 1040. So that gives us a total of 7 Atari STs for me to triage and test, and then, well, let's just get started. Enough babbling from me. Oh, you know what? Before we get started, actually, I want to talk a little bit about James, who gave me the bulk of these machines we're going to be testing today. So James is a local viewer who actually also gave me the Apple IIc that I had on the main channel like a week or two ago. And the way I ended up with these Ataris and the Apple IIc and actually a bunch of other machines is that James ended up having to move and reached out to me and said that he had to downsize. He was moving into a smaller house and had a lot of retro stuff, kind of like I do, and really needed to purge the collection. And James said that a lot of the stuff that he had that he was going to give me weren't working. So it'd be perfect for repair videos and stuff, which, you know, we know is my bread and butter. So I said, of course, absolutely. Plus, what I like to do, as I've talked about before, is, you know, I don't need this many Atari ST. So what I'll do is see which ones of these work, which ones don't work, which are going to need repairs, and eventually I call it catch and release. Basically, I will turn these back loose into the local retro community here in the Pacific Northwest. And I look at it this way, that it can turn into some interesting and fun content potentially on the main channel, like doing a repair. Not to mention helps Philip out because he got rid of some stuff that he didn't need. And he did graciously donate this all to me, but then I will just turn around and pass it on to the community and give this stuff away to other people. If we find that there are some machines here that are missing or are broken where some of the main chips are bad, then what I might end up doing is designating some of these machines as parts donors and using that machine to fix other Ataris. So hopefully out of all of these, we can get all of them working. And if not, then a bunch of them can be fixed and then released back into the community. Anyhow, it was a few weeks ago when I went down to see James and grab all the stuff that, you know, before he had to move. He was literally needing to leave his house like days after I was there. So this was like the end of the line for all this stuff. And I shot a little video on my phone, which I'm going to insert here, because James let me know that there was a bunch of stuff that I would be very, very interested in coming down to grab, but didn't really give any detail as to what the stuff was, which is great because it was a bit of a surprise when I got to see it all. So yeah, let's jump to that footage. I'm here in Eugene, Oregon, and I'm meeting with James, who is moving and has a bunch of stuff that James thinks I might like. Look at this beautiful Oregon fall scenery here. It's a nice warm day, and yeah, let's see what's inside. So, okay, well, Amiga 500 box, two 500s, what? Two C, whoa. There is a lot of, look, I see many Ataris. I see lots of Commodore stuff.
Let me grab my list.
Okay, wow.
That I made. I don't even know if I kept up with everything.
Look at this. These are all boxes for
Those
obviously
boxes,
these,
but they are matched up with
computers that are everywhere.
yes.
Oh my, an Amiga 1200?
Yes.
I don't have a 1200. That's crazy.
And it's got a bad case. There's someone kind of drilled a hole through it, and so there is a replacement case.
This here is one of those modern ones?
Yeah.
Whoa.
And we also have a replacement case for one of the 500s.
Like, there's an SS64.
So there's 5 Commodore 128s.
Whoa.
There's 5 Atari STs of different flavors.
Right. Awesome.
There is a Atari 520 STFM in box.
That's this one there, I take it? Whoa.
There's the 2GS upgrade kit.
Oh, is that what this is? I've never seen a box for it.
Oh, yes, it's pristine.
And that has the back plate thing and the motherboard, or just the back plate, basically?
It's got everything.
Oh, it has everything.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You just need to check the Varda battery on it.
Oh, yeah.
I checked it about a year ago, and it was fine.
What? Wow.
So, yeah, there's a broken 2C.
Cool.
There's a Commodore 64 in box. There's a 1541 in box that I put Jiffy DOS on.
Very cool. Lots of software.
And I've got some various, there's a RAM, there's a cartridge extender, there's a 1200 accelerator. I don't remember if that works or not.
Huh.
So these little boxes contains, this is a hard drive for Amiga 500.
Yeah, wow.
The Amiga 500 in the box on the ground right there comes with a GVP 500 hard drive that plugs into the expansion port.
Oh, neat.
That box right there, the Commodore 64.
These?
Those are empty boxes, but underneath that is a Amiga 3000.
Oh, wow.
And then that's actually just the case for it. I've got the logic board in this box right here. It was the one that, it suffered battery damage.
Yeah, typical.
It was a user group was closing down, and I managed to get a bunch of stuff from them.
Right.
And very nice gentleman. And but unfortunately, the battery had corroded some of the logic board, but it still works. It's just the power supply's a little bit wonky and other things. I have a Buddha card for it.
What's that do? I don't
It's
know.
a Zorro slot that allows you to add a compact flash.
Oh, like IDE interface.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah, those are not common these days. So why you're moving and obviously you're trying to downsize, right? So you collected this stuff over the years and then basically
Yeah, I'm basically a pack rat, and there was a kind of a golden age time there where you could get stuff from Goodwill and shopgoodwill.com.
right.
And
it wasn't incredibly expensive yet.
And yard sales and things like that, and and you could get them at a good price. And so I did. And unfortunately they end up kind of sitting.
That's how it goes, right? So what's the deal on the 2GS upgrade? Those are pretty rare and sought after.
So we had two of those from where I worked. So I worked for a school district for a long time, and we were sort of cleaning out a loft area and out of the repair shop. And in the far back corner were these two Apple 2GS upgrades, basically mint in box. And I
mean, it doesn't look open, that one, or maybe if you did, you just taped it back up. Right?
I opened it just to inspect the contents and to inspect the Varda battery.
Right.
The other one was given to 8-Bit Guy, which he did on his channel.
Yep.
And it's a really neat upgrade. You put it in an Apple II case, and
it's got like a sticker to put on it, a new backplate, right, with the ports. Yeah, it's
and hopefully that is still in there after I opened it. I'm pretty sure everything's still in there.
cool. Even if the battery got destroyed on the motherboard, like a regular 2GS motherboard would work in that case. It's the metal plate and those parts are the hard to find parts. Very cool. I mean, so what a save to find two of those, ex-school district stuff they had probably upgraded.
Yeah, they were there for probably 38 years or something.
And they probably upgraded a bunch of the machines, had extras. I wonder how much they had cost back in the day from Apple for schools to buy, since they got stuff at a discount. But I guess we'll never know. Or someone who worked at a school district might know.
And I'm trying to remember if I saw the invoice on one of them. I want to say it was probably, just a guess, $800, but I don't even, just a guess.
Do you have some of these for yourself to keep?
Yes, I got a case of them.
Okay, good.
Really cheap.
Because these are like now gold.
Yeah.
I've been hoarding them as well, but I know talking to people who hadn't hoarded them, that they're so expensive now. Well, there is a treasure trove of stuff here. This will produce tons and tons of content for repairs on the channel. And obviously, yes, I have the perfect computer to put that into, the 2GS upgrade, a really nice mint 2E case that's one of the Alps keyboard ones, and it would be perfect. So this is freaking awesome. So there it is. What do you think about that? I was completely shocked. So I completely filled my car up to the absolute brim. I mean, it was all the way up to the ceiling. Now, one thing that James also gave me was a whole bunch of 8-bit Commodore stuff, a lot of C128s and 64s. And I have done a lot of repairs of those machines, and I have a lot of them in the house already. So what I decided to do is, near where James lived was my friend Mike at Ravenwolf Retro Tech. So I hit Mike up and I said, hey, you want to do some lunch? I have some stuff I want to give you. And I basically offloaded all of the 8-bit Commodore stuff, almost all of the 8-bit Commodore stuff to him. So if you want to see potential repairs and fixing up of those, I'll link to Mike's channel down below and definitely check that out. He will be also catching, releasing all of those machines. He doesn't need more 64s or 128s either, because he has already a massive amount of them, but he's going to be fixing them all up. I'm not sure if he's going to do it in one big video or what he's going to do exactly, but yeah, he's starting a local retro group down in the Eugene, Salem area of Oregon. And I think those will be good things to give out to the new members of that community. So anyways, enough of that. Let's get to testing some of these Ataris. Yes. All right, so first thing I want to do is plug in the mouse that I got from Philip. This is the one I have at hand, at least. I'm going to plug it into my STE here. I just want to make sure that it is working. That way, when I go to test these other machines, I am not sitting there going, oh no, the mouse is broken, not realizing that it was just the mouse itself. And this is where it's kind of annoying. You got to lift the whole machine up, and okay, it has a little icon to tell you which port it is. You got to kind of shove it in there. I'm assuming people who had Ataris back in the day probably had a little extension cable they could plug into there, and that way they could switch out joysticks relatively easily. Because that's one of the problems if you're trying to go from one mouse to, say, 2 joysticks, because it's the same port for the mouse or the joystick, you have to lift the whole computer up. I mean, that's annoying. Now this particular machine, my STE, has a GoTech installed, and I hear it clicking away. I don't have a USB flash drive plugged in, so what we were seeing at the GEM desktop was just the ROM OS, what's built into the ROM on these, which is pretty cool. The entire OS on the Atari is pretty much built into the ROM, and that means that you don't need to have boot disks. You could just boot directly into the ROM OS and then use your program disk with a single disk drive, and you're not swapping disks around. There we are. And let's see if this works. Looks like it moved. Yes, it's working. Cool. Okay. Is it clicking though? No. Oh, yes it is. Okay. I just tried to open the A drive. I think the mouse button doesn't work super well. Let's see. No, it does. Okay. I don't know. Yeah, it seems to be working fine. I'm looking at the display via my Extron 300A. So that's not a laggy device, but the whole capture setup going through OBS, that's laggy. So moving the mouse around is kind of annoying. You wouldn't really want to use something like this. But yep, there we go. So this STE has whatever version of GEM, Graphical Environment Manager, TOS, the operating system, I think that stands for. 1989 is the most recent date. Someone will probably be able to look at that and tell me exactly what version of GEM or TOS that's on this machine. But yeah, this thing has a blitter, which says blitter right there. Anyways, okay, cool. So everything is working on my STE, which is expected. They're very reliable machines. And for a long time, this was my only Atari ST, and it always worked really well. So never had any problems with this thing. Okay, so first we're gonna try this machine from Philip, which I think is the one that Philip said already totally works. Now, one thing about these machines, besides the annoying location of the mouse connector, is the non-FM modules, the ones that don't have a built-in FM modulator, only have horizontal and vertical sync outputs. They don't have composite sync, so that can affect your ability to use certain monitors. For instance, certain Commodore 1084 monitors only support composite sync when they're on analog RGB mode. The Philips boxy ones that I really like, that I SCART modded, that does support horizontal vertical sync. And the non-FM modules of these, this is an FM module, but the ones that aren't FM don't have the actual composite sync signal. In fact, even the versions that do FM here, they don't really have composite sync. They have a composite video output through this thick cable here. I think it's a 13-pin DIN. So you can use that as the sync with a SCART jack. So that does work. But for the non-FMs, you have to use something that supports the vertical and horizontal sync separate inputs. So turning this on, I think it's going to work. It just takes a little moment to boot because it's trying to use the internal floppy, which there's nothing in it. It's pretty normal for it to just sit here for a while. It is expecting to have a disk installed. I have a utilities disk, TOS 2.06, Xenon 2, disk 1 of 1, that's a game. Oids, disk 1 of 1, that's another game. And I have Lemmings for the Atari ST. So these are just some random Atari things that I had. So let's stick in this utilities disk. Oh, look there, it came up anyways. And the mouse is working. So we'll open this up. I don't remember what's on my utilities disk. All right, looks like we have GemBench, sysinfo, program, sysinfo and sysinfo 2. What's the difference? I don't know. Let's run sysinfo, see what that does. It says drive A is not responding. Insert a disk. If it's a hard drive, check its connection. Well, that's annoying. It read the table of contents or the file system. Now I'm going to say that for this video, I'm not going to do too much troubleshooting. I'm just going to say what's kind of going on. So we're going to try using this cleaning floppy on this drive. I thought these disks were good, but you never know. Floppy drives do fail, right? So we'll try cleaning the disk drive. I didn't even really hear it seeking, so that's a bad sign. Okay, yep, no problem. Of course, it's not going to read that properly. So let's see if that made a difference. It's kind of making a high-pitched squeal. Okay. And hitting cancel rebooted the computer. Interesting. Oh, it booted into high res, and you can change that, or medium res. High res is 640 by 400, I think, monochrome. Well, this is 640 by 200, and we'll switch to low res. Takes a second. So there must have been like a preference file on this particular floppy, and it read it as it booted. Why don't we try sysinfo2.prg? I think the mouse button on this mouse really is not working correctly. Okay, it's not reading that disk either. Nothing looks wrong with this disk, but again, it may not be working. Well, why don't we try a game? Or we'll try this toss disk here. Just write protect it. I mean, I hear it seeking, so it's reading this disk. Now, what I don't know, I'm super not familiar with Ataris, is if this TOS or TOS 2.06 disk is newer than the ROM set on this machine, does it load that into RAM? I don't know. But I hear it reading that disk right now. It's seeking through it. The disk in drive A may be bad or unformatted. Okay, well, this doesn't bode well for the floppy drive in here. So that might be our first thing, is I just need to mark this as needs floppy drive. Oh yeah, this looks different. It's got a control panel. It says 1990. So this must be newer than what's in the ROM set. The drive kind of works, but clearly not working great. Yeah, the mouse button definitely is not working correctly. I have to really hold it hard. You have to really give it a good solid push, and then you're able to drag the window around. Otherwise it doesn't even work reliably. Like I click and move and it starts, yeah, okay, I don't know. The mouse is not working great either. All right, let's just try one more thing. We'll try Oids. This is considered, I think, one of the best games on the ST, and I don't think it ever came out for any other system. Maybe I can double click? No, okay. You know what? I think there's a reset button. So let's see about this game, Oids. Okay, well that's weird. It just booted up to TOS. That implies that the disk did not read properly. I'm pretty sure this game just boots. We'll have to try this disk on another machine that works, if I find one. Okay, day A is not responding. So there we have it. Machine number 1, Atari 520 STFM, bad floppy drive. I think that's probably the only problem with this machine. Let's go on to the next one. And I'm going to mention that the floppy drive on my Atari 1040 ST E, the enhanced version that I showed at the beginning of the video, when I got that thing, the floppy drive was totally dead. And I could not revive it. I think it had like a bunch of corrosion inside. The thing must have been exposed to moisture, the whole computer. Even though it was dirty, but not horrible, the floppy drive was just complete, a lost cause, which is why it has a GoTech inside. And there are a couple different, looking at this, there are a few different floppy drive, internal floppy drives these can have. And this is the version that's kind of got this molded faceplate. If you take out the drive, you have this big gap here. And then if you put a GoTech inside, I think I 3D printed something that kind of exposes the GoTech through this hole. And that works quite well. Actually, no, I take that back. Here's my STE. So it did have a different drive thing. So the eject button was over here. On the one we just looked at, the eject button was along the bottom and a whole different shape. So this is just a normal GoTech, and it just happens to line up perfectly. So the buttons are there, USB port, and I have a little OLED screen. So it just works, but I don't think this would work so well on that other machine we just looked at, the one that also has a bad floppy drive. All right, next machine. Here it is. This is a pretty nice looking 520 STFM. And I have to say the keyboard on this and the case looks a lot better than it does even on my 1040 STE, which I had to retrobyte. So I might actually steal the case and the keyboard from this to use in the STE. I'll just have to swap the badge over. When you retrobyte these keyboards and the cases, it's very prone to blotching. Not to mention the F keys can get very messed up from retrobyte, and they did on that one. They look horrible. This machine still looks yellowed, but not horribly, just a little bit. So this machine is by far the best looking Atari ST that I have here in the house, at least when it comes to these full-size machines. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Huh. That's weird. I don't know what's going on there. Keyboard or the case is all screwed together. Why do we only have like half the screen? We'll see what happens when this boots up. I wonder if this is a scan converter problem. I don't know. The other ones were working fine, right? Here, trying to boot right now. While we wait, one thing about the STs that I don't love is the way the keyboard feels. It's just really mushy. I think it's like a rubber dome, pretty much all of them. I don't think there was any mechanical versions. Aha, it's working. But why does it look like this? Is this just a problem with my scan converter? Wow, this mouse is like, what's going on here? This was working fine on the other ones, but I can barely move up and down properly. Like it side to side is fine. Like when I move down, it goes up. What's happening? This was not acting up on the other machines. Let's try the wheel directly. No, something is wrong. Moving the wheel manually, so it's not like a traction problem with the mouse ball. Left and right should work. Yep, left and right's fine. Hopefully that's visible in the camera, but up and down does not work. It kind of works, but not really. So I think there's a fault on this machine. Let's just make sure I jiggle the connection on the mouse here. And we'll try one more time. Oh, wait a second. That fixed it. Okay. So we had a bad connection there. Whoops. Oh no, the mouse ball went flying. Let's put that back in. Interesting problem. I haven't run into that. It's a quadrature encoded mouse, so same as the original Macintoshes, Lisa, stuff like, nope. Okay, no, it's, if you move quickly, it completely goes the wrong way. Let's jiggle the cable one more time here. No, okay, that did not fix it. Okay, well, we have a couple faults. I assume this is running in high-res mode when it shouldn't be. So let me jiggle the cable. How can it even do that? Let me grab another machine. I just want to validate that this is not a scan converter issue. Let's grab my 1040 STE here because I'm confused. Oh no, okay. See, this is where it's good to have a working machine because sometimes I don't actually know what's going on with this thing. Why is this so confused all of a sudden? It's not an OBS problem. This is entirely an issue with the scan converter itself. Why was it working and now it's not? It's like the scan converter has just changed into like a 640 line resolution mode instead of the 200 line that it should be. So that's odd. I don't know why it was working fine and then all of a sudden stopped working. I knew it kind of had to be that. It didn't make sense what was going on. There's no way the Atari can output color graphics like we were seeing with high resolution, like 400 line mode. So I just don't know why my Extron got confused, but it did. Let's see if power cycling this machine fixes the mouse problem, but I somehow doubt it. And why don't we try cleaning the floppy drive while I am at it, because it's sitting there trying to boot. So a little bit of IPA on the cleaning disk. And if that doesn't work, hopefully that cleans this drive and there's no issue with it. Okay, that's been in there for a little while. Let's pop in the OIDS disk. See if that can read anything. No, the mouse does not work. I cannot move down. It's like you can sometimes move down, like I'm moving down there, but it's very inconsistent. It could be the mouse. It still could be the mouse. Oh, this is reading OIDS. Okay, let's try booting OIDS. Hit the reset button. So maybe this one has a working drive. Obviously the computer seems to be working fine though, which is cool. OIDS hacked and packed by was, not was. Cool. Does anyone remember playing this particular version of OIDS, this hacked version of OIDS? FTL, faster than light. I'm pretty sure this game works on NTSC machines, because obviously that's all I have here, NTSC machines. Although, I don't know about these Ataris, but I know the Atari STE can switch into PAL mode. And we wouldn't be able to tell, because the Extron can handle both. Yeah, there it goes. Working good. I don't have the audio hooked up, but there is sound. My little cable that I made has a RCA jack for the sound output here. Okay, well, this tells us one thing, that these disks are good, and that other machine definitely has a bad floppy drive. Not surprised whatsoever. Okay, these are all the different levels that OIDS has. Don't know if I can use the mouse or you can use the keyboard. This probably needs to have a joystick. Probably works fine without. Let's see here, warping to no voids. This is obviously the novice level of this game. It's been a while, but I definitely played this game and it's really fun. I don't remember how to play it. Okay, so that's thrust. So it's kind of like a super advanced lunar lander, like way cooler and more fun. And I'm not doing this game justice. I don't even know how to fire. It's not the space bar unless that keyboard doesn't work. There's a shield. You can definitely fire somehow. I'm going to try landing. I don't even remember if that's what I'm supposed to do. It's been a while since I played this game, but I remember watching some videos on Atari ST games and people were saying like it is by awesome game, and I don't think it's on any other platform. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if I can actually land. Is this something that is possible? I think novice level gravity is really weak, so it's very easy to play. I think I have too much sideways motion. Okay, I'm on the ground, but I don't know what to do now. But you can launch again. So it doesn't like end the level just to, because if we fly around, the world is big and there are lots of things. Nope, no, crash. All right, well anyhow, what we know for sure is that this 520 STFM, this comes from James, is fully working. Oh no, it's not though. Let's reboot again, take the disk out. Oh, you know what, let's run the sysinfo disk that I was trying to use before, because the one that was saying it was bad. The mouse situation is bad. So 520 STFM, it works, but the mouse is a problem. Yeah, you can only really move. So I can move down there. We really need to see if this mouse problem persists on other machines. It's so weird, like sometimes you can move down and other times you can't. It's gotta be this mouse. Also, this capture device really struggles with this particular mode. I'm trying to run sysinfo. Come on, go down. It's so hard to get the mouse pointer. There we go. Sometimes it goes down. Sometimes it goes down. Sometimes it goes up. I think sysinfo is like a text mode app that just shows all the info about your computer. And I think it's in medium res, 640 by 200, which, there it is. Yeah, Atari ST, 8 megahertz. TOS on here is 1.02, so 1987. I'm actually going to write the TOS version on here. How much RAM is in this machine? TOS size. Looks like free RAM, 512K. Okay, so it's got 512K of RAM. And it works, but mouse issues, question mark. What we need to do is, I'll stick this on the machine, and then I'm going to bring out another computer, and we'll test the mouse on another machine. Because I kind of suspect the mouse is the issue, not the computer. But on the other hand, because the mouse was just working on this other machine. Now this is my 1040 STE. So let's see this thing starts to work properly. We'll just try to get organized here, yes. Next one we're going to test, once the mouse is determined whether it's faulty or not, is this machine. 1040 ST that has its top cover not attached, not screwed together. So one of the reasons why these are so heavy is like it's just filled with shielding. It's all over the power supply, all over this stuff. The keyboard just sort of sits in here though. And there's the connection for the mouse and the joystick. And I'm pretty sure that goes into this controller IC. Okay, mouse. Oh yeah, no problems. Yeah, unfortunately it is working fine. I mean, I'd say the mouse isn't perfect. I mean, maybe there's a problem with the mouse still that's causing that issue with that one computer. As you can see, I can move up and down without issue. It does seem if I move quickly though, it's kind of laggy. Left and right seems to work. Up and down does seem to favor the top of the screen. So I'm kind of thinking actually that there is a problem with this mouse. Maybe there's a bad part or something in there, or it's dirty. And that other machine is somehow more sensitive than the 1040 STE. Well, the other machines so far that we've tried. If anyone watching is familiar with these mice and this particular problem, maybe let me know. Maybe this is a known issue with like a cap or something that goes bad inside the mouse or some other little component that causes it to always move towards the up direction. Okay, so let's test out this 520 ST. Oh no, that's a 1040 ST that had the lid removed. Okay, so 520 ST is plugged in, the mouse is plugged in. Let's turn this on, hopefully everything works. Yeah, that's good. You might have garbage if the computer's not initializing. But this one seems to be working. Keyboard's making, or the disk drive's making clunky noises. Let's try cleaning it. I'll pop in my cleaning floppy. Spinning. It's trying to read it. It's making seeking noises, that's good. The one with the bad disk drive that came from Philip, that machine, it was incredibly quiet, the seeking. I could just barely hear it. So maybe that was the issue. Like the actual seeking head movement stuff was the problem. All right, let's pop in the OIDS disk. Oh, booted anyways. Aha. Don't have any mouse at all. Oh, maybe I have it in the wrong port. That was odd. The mouse pointer is moving around. Why? Okay, no, that didn't make a difference. It's not working. You know, while I was moving this around, the mouse pointer was actually moving. So I wonder if the pins are dirty or something. Let's deoxit the socket here a little. Okay, it's moving that way only? What is happening here? Well, that's weird. So this has a different problem. Okay, I just did a quick search for the ability to move the mouse around using the arrow keys or the number pad on Atari TOS. It doesn't seem like that's a native, at least according to the search I just did, quick search. It said you need a third-party application to do that. If I reboot this machine, we have the OIDS disk in there. Let's see if the keyboard is even working at all. The disk drive light's on, that's this light, and the power light's on, which is in the other corner. So it's getting power. Enter key works, so the keyboard scan code routine is working. I kind of would, oh no, it crashed. We got 4 bomb icons. Zoom in a little bit so you can see the bombs. Yep, this is the Atari ST crash. What it does, it shows these little bombs. 4 bombs means something. Could I tell you what? Nope, but maybe this thing has a RAM error or something like that. I'm going to reboot with the utilities disk. We'll see what it shows. Maybe half the RAM's not working and this is like a 256K machine, something like that. I don't know. Now, oh, I just realized the problem's going to be I won't be able to use sysinfo because it doesn't auto start and the mouse doesn't work. Oh, I just realized I'm loading the TOS 2.06 and I'm not loading the utility disk. This is the wrong floppy. Hey, at least the disk drive's working well. I think I left the disk. Yes, here it is. Utilities was in another machine. There it is. Is our mouse working any better? No, it's not at all. Now it's not moving at all. Weird. It moved before, but not now. Change resolution, Alt 1 to 6. Alt copy folder, Control, show the working directory, Alt question mark, escape, blah, 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 scroll through Windows contents, undo. Yeah, there's, oh, Control Alt Delete is reboot. That's funny. Control Alt Shift or Right Shift Delete is cold start. I did not know that. I don't think I ever pushed the help key. That key prints the contents. Alt Help is print screen. That's cool. But the mouse is no longer doing anything. So let's just jiggle this around. Yep, nothing is happening. Oh, see, it's moving on its own. What? Now it's just moving up. Now it's not moving at all. So for instance, right now it can only go one direction. Do we just have a bad connection? Let's jiggle the cable going to the motherboard. No, that made no difference. I'm just going to give this little controller IC a push back into its socket. Well, that didn't do anything. If anything, pushing keys on the keyboard makes the mouse pointer move. That doesn't make sense as far as I'm aware. Okay, I'm going to reset the computer and I put in the utility disk. I just want to see if we can run sysinfo somehow. No mouse pointer. I mean, arrow keys make the mouse pointer kind of move, but in unpredictable ways. It's over there now. This can't be normal. This cannot be normal. I think what I'm going to do, just to kind of help rule out what's going on here, is I'm just going to open up this other machine which says bad floppy drive, and I will steal the keyboard out of it temporarily, and we'll just validate that this is a bad keyboard and nothing wrong with the computer itself. Right, there's the keyboard from the machine from Philip, the one that has the bad floppy drive, the computer that is. Let's see if these look the same on the bottom. They sure do. They look pretty much identical, absolutely identical. Okay, keyboard's connected. It is keyed, so you can't plug it in the wrong way. Let's turn this on. Utility disk is in there. See if this works better. No, it does not work better. Okay, I didn't realize that. So I guess the mouse processing is done on the computer itself. Maybe there's like a VIA, SIA, something like that. So I can't even do anything on here. We can't run the utility that I want to run because the mouse is dead. Very interesting. Very, very curious problem. Well, one thing that's interesting though is TOS 2.06 booted without issue. Let's try OIDS one more time. I don't think there was a note on this computer. Yeah, there was no note on this machine, this particular 1040, that said crashes sometimes. One of the other machines said that. Let's see if this boots. It's quite possible that it's crashing, maybe because of whatever's wrong with the mouse. That chip or something that's causing that not to work is also causing the game or the machine to crash. I was about to talk about this keyboard, the one I took out. It's not booting now. It's just sitting here with the light on. Hit the reset button, see what happens. Yeah, this one's pretty yellow. And these stems are not broken, but the keys are missing. Let's see if this thing boots this time around. Oh, at least we got the FTL logo. This is where it crashed last time, though. I am suspicious of this machine, though. We had one crash, one time where it didn't do anything. There we go, 4 little bomb icons. Let's try a different game. We'll try Lemmings, see if that boots. Probably a memory error. I'll have to look up what the four bombs means. But a lot of times those errors are unhelpful. It's stuff like bus error or something like that. Okay. My scan converter went to that wrong mode again. It's doing a cool intro screen. Trainer, sure, yeah, yes, let's do everything. Yeah, this is the scan converter once again. Freaked out. According to a quick Google search, 4 bombs is illegal instruction. Yeah, so 2 is bus error, 3 is address error, 4 is illegal instruction, 5 is 0 divide, 6 is check, and there's a bunch more. I'm not sure those other number of bombs actually work on the lower versions of TOS, but I think that the one we saw there was illegal instruction. So it either means that it's jumping to somewhere that doesn't exist. For instance, say only half the RAM is available, although this game is working. Direction, same problem, the mouse pointer is moving up there. You know, I should plug in the speaker just so we can hear if that is working. The audio, that is. It doesn't seem there's sound in this menu, at least. I don't know. I'm not familiar with this version on the ST. I need to be able to push on one player, and I can't. So we're going to reset, and hopefully that Cracktro loader screen. Oh, look, we're back in the normal mode. Okay, you know, that probably switched into PAL mode. And I bet you the Extron, oh, there it is. Yeah, I bet you it's running in PAL mode right now. But the music sound's working. Cool. So there we have it. So 1040 ST, bad mouse input, not keyboard, I wrote, and 4 bombs in OIDS. But works in Lemmings, boots TOS, and obviously this one with its original keyboard, the yellow one here, is missing 2 keys. So if anyone out there can spare me a spare T key and a spare F key, then I can at least get this keyboard back together. I have a feeling this thing works other than the missing 2 keys. And it's funny that those are gone without the stems being broken. So they were either stolen for another machine or something. It's pretty grimy and filthy, but I don't think that's anything that a clean won't make work again. And I guess the other thing is this thing is missing its screws, and it's extremely yellowed. But on the other hand, the floppy drive does work. So there's our note. What machine number is this? This is number 3. All right, let's jump to this Mega ST2 that I can't really do too much with because I'm missing the keyboard. Something's floating around inside. It sounds like a little piece of plastic. But I'm going to take the screws out. We're going to look inside just because I want to make sure it's not a little piece of metal or some kind of blown up component or something else. Looks like we're missing one screw at least on the bottom here, so that means that obviously someone's been in here. I mean, I know that because warranty void sticker is voided. It's actually missing 2 screws. Looks like it uses the same exact screws that the wedge computers use. And even with the piece of plastic that just fell out of here, there's still stuff floating around inside. Okay, there it is. Oh, it's the disk drive faceplate, and this is the battery thing, which is, oh, we have a connector, cool. I kind of feel that originally this would have had more shielding. Someone has taken the shielding off. The power supply is exposed. This does have the interesting thing that Atari did to hold the PLCC chips in there. Commodore Amiga's never really needed this, I don't think, but Atari had to add these because they were very prone to coming out and you had to push them in, I think. This has some kind of a mod, but this looks factory sitting on top of the CPU. It's interesting. It has one wire, one flying lead, a bit of glue, and then it's soldered down onto several pins on the CPU itself, and it's a 74LS74. Now, I've done some repairs on Atari STs before, and I know that the PLCC sockets are very prone to bad connections, and it could well be that on the machine that was not loading OIDs, that it was simply a bad connection on the PLCC on these main chips. Now, one thing I noticed about this machine is it does have this expansion module, and plus it has a connector here. I think this is for an internal hard drive because this connector right here on the back of the case is for an external hard drive, and it looks like it's right next to it. So I bet you this supports some kind of internal hard drive somehow. And it looks like from a memory perspective, the RAM is under the floppy drive. Don't know how much is there. They look like 1 meg chips. I think 2 chips is 1 megabyte. And I can see 8 there, 16 of them, which doesn't quite make sense. So I think I'm counting these up wrong, but this thing might actually have 4 megs of RAM in it if it works. There's just little pieces of plastic falling out. In fact, here's one. This was a little standoff thing from the top cover. Let's look at the top cover. What broke on here? Oh yeah, so like this one's broken. The rest seem okay. Weird. Right, mains power is connected, so it's dangerous now since the shielding is missing. Also, I noticed like 1 bulge caps on here, so the caps probably need to be replaced. See what happens. Okay, that can't be a normal sound. We'll unplug the speaker. I don't know what's going on there. Could that be because the keyboard's not connected? Yes, I think it is. When the keyboard's not connected, I think it thinks that you're just holding down a key, and that's like the repeat sound, you know, like let go of the key sound. And I've run into that before previously testing these machines. So that's good. Even with that beepy noise, it still does try to boot. Let's put a cleaning disk in the floppy drive. I do notice some corrosion along the edge of the floppy drive. Sorry, you can't really see that. It looks like we're stuck in PAL mode, or maybe running that that other game caused us to get confused. Let's see if I can fix this while it tries to clean the disk. Active. Hey, the machine did boot though. We just can't do anything. Let's make this bigger. Cool, well, it looks good. Everything seems to be fine. I just can't plug a mouse or a keyboard in because I don't have the little adapter. Obviously, further investigation is going to be required for this, but I suppose what we can do now that I cleaned the drive, let's try loading a game. Like I'll put OIDs in here and we'll see if that does work. Does this have a physical reset button on the back here somewhere? It does have a fan that doesn't seem to be spinning, so maybe that's just unplugged. I don't know. Either it's unplugged or it's jammed. No, it's not jammed. It's just must be unplugged. So game's loading. That's a good sign. Cool, this is a working machine, I think. Yeah, it's getting further than it did on the other machine with the crashing with the illegal instruction. Awesome, very awesome. Yeah, splash screen. Cool. Okay, I'm seeing a little bit of interference, and as the drive was seeking, it was dimming a little bit. I think that's bad caps on the power supply. This is a very similar issue. I think I had to do the recapping on my 1040 STE for the same exact reason as this. And I don't know why. I don't know why the fan's not running either. But from my note, I said, Steve, Mega ST2 seems to work, need to make keyboard adapter. I just wrote need PSU recap on here. But you know what? I have a vague recollection that these machines with a blitter, the STE machines, which I'm pretty sure this is, I think I had to do some other mod on the motherboard on my STE to fix that interference problem. That problem seems to exist not due to the power supply. I mean, I think the PSU, because that's got a bulging cap, certainly needs attention. But there was some other mod I had to do somewhere on here to fix that interference problem. So if anyone has a recollection of what that might be, please, please let me know. Also, I have a feeling people watching have a recollection of the keyboard situation for this. Like, how do I get the keyboard working and STL file for the battery cover? I haven't even looked. I think I did a little bit of looking when I got this machine, and there used to be someone selling an adapter to let you use like PS2 keyboards, but I don't think it's sold anymore. But I think what I was reading is that you could use a keyboard from an Atari, a regular Atari. But the problem would be, of course, is, you know, this is kind of annoying to use on your desk, not without some kind of a case around it, even if this does work, you know, with the right adapter. So yeah, if you know of a solution, definitely please comment down below. Let me know about that. So I went looking through the stuff that James gave me, and I ended up finding 2 additional mice. This was the one I've been testing with, the one that I think actually is faulty. And now I want to go back and quickly test those Atari machines that were having mouse issues with these 2 mice. This one here says Golden Image or Golden Image, and it's actually optical, but I don't know if it needs one of those special mouse pads, and it has an Amiga and an Atari switch. It's a GI 6000 mouse. And then this one is just another Atari mouse. It does look a little bit different on the bottom, meaning the serial number is just a lot higher, so I assume it's a later one. They both have the same part number though, STM1. But the other thing that's different is the one I just found has this connector on it, and the one that I've been using is the one on the right. Both Atari branded, just a little bit different. So let's start with this one. This is the number 2 machine that kind of worked enough that I could run some diagnostics programs on it. Well, at least a sysinfo program, but I wrote mouse issues ? Okay, so I have one of the mice I just found plugged in, and this was the one where you could move down. Mostly you could only move up, but to move down was really tricky. You had to kind of move the mouse very carefully, and then it could go down. Otherwise, the mouse pointer really just always wanted to go up. Okay, absolutely 0 issues. So that means that this other mouse is definitely faulty. And I did open this up just to kind of check inside. Nothing looks out of the ordinary. I did put a little deoxin on the buttons because those were flaky. But the sensors for the wheels look fine. I don't think there was even an IC in here, just some transistors and some passives. So I'm wondering if just something's out of adjustment or the LEDs are getting weak. If anyone has any ideas of what goes wrong with these Atari mice, let me know, but I guess that's a future repair video. And that's cool. That means this machine actually is working perfectly now. I can run some stuff on here. Oh yeah, this is actually easier to work and use now. So this is the utilities disk that I booted off of before, and the one thing I have copied on here that I didn't have on here before is I have yet another RAM test. I forgot about this. I don't know why it wasn't on here already, but this does RAM testing for the Ataris, which is good because one of the other machines, remember the one that when I try to boot OIDs, it would actually give little crashes? We can try running this RAM test on that other machine and see if it works. This machine, though, actually appears to be fully functional. So number 2 machine, I'm going to take away mouse issues. Basically, it works. This is a fully operational Atari 520 STFM. This is the number 1 machine. I just had bad floppy drives, so I couldn't run any software on it, but the other mouse, ironically, was working okay on this, although it worked on my STE as well. So whatever problem is going on with that other mouse seems to be, well, slightly variable depending on which ST machine it's plugged into. So we don't need to do any further testing here because it's already working. And here it is, the number 3 machine. This was the one that basically I swapped the keyboard around and it still wasn't working. The mouse just doesn't work at all. Otherwise, it did boot up into GEM. My assumption is this other mouse is going to work flawlessly on this computer. And nope, mouse still doesn't work at all. Okay, so this one definitely still has a mouse fault and I can't run any software on here. I'll just double check that I have it plugged into the correct port on the bottom. Yep, I have it plugged into the mouse port, the top one, or the one towards the middle of the machine. And it is in there. And funny, this actually moved down. Is there just a bad connection? Oh yes, there is. That's what it was. I'm just wedging the connector over to one side and now this works. Okay, X and Y moves or works, but I can't select anything. Oh, there we go. Okay. Well, first let's try running yet another RAM test. because this is the machine that had 4 bombs in OIDs when it booted up. So we'll see if this RAM test actually runs. I'm not sure how comprehensive this particular RAM test is. It does, say moving inversions. It's doing more than just like the most basic stuff. I don't think it's doing March testing, but I think it's still better than nothing. The other thing about this test is it can't test all of the memory. I think that's because, part of it's used for the graphics buffer, even though it's testing, this section. But this little area down here is not being tested, and obviously part of the program itself is being held in memory, and that's potentially an issue. Now, Atari STs have a cartridge connector on the side, and the diagnostics that everyone runs on their ST is a cartridge-based diagnostic. So it's ROM-based. You don't have to boot, you don't have to have a working floppy drive, you don't have to have working RAM, I assume, or you probably have to have some working RAM. I don't have one of those cartridges. I might, actually. I can't find my Atari ST cartridges. I know I have a couple of them, and I don't know where I put them. I think I put them with my 520 ST, which is up in my crawl space, and I can't easily access right now. But I'm thinking, actually, that the cartridge that's up in the crawl space is just like this desk accessory cartridge, and maybe I have a Cubase cartridge, and I don't actually have the diagnostic cartridge. I looked around to see if there was a floppy version of the diagnostic ROM that had been somehow modified to run off of a floppy disk, and there wasn't one. Okay, so this has finished an entire pass. It says pass 2, 0 errors. Well, I don't understand why OIDs crashes then, because the RAM doesn't seem to be the fault. There's something else going on with this machine. But there's another strange thing about this machine. Remember, I swapped the keyboard from another machine that had a working mouse and working keyboard into this machine, and it didn't change anything at all. And yet it feels like the problem with this machine, so the mouse is not working again, is some kind of a physical issue. Let's see if I can get this to work again. Yeah, there we go. So if I bend the mouse connector in a certain way, then it just starts to work. Yeah, I can't click anything right now, so it's like the contacts for the mouse buttons aren't getting through. It feels like there's 2 problems here. This particular keyboard, the one with 2 missing keys, has bad connections or something for the mouse port, like maybe it got yanked really hard and it's broken on the PCB, so pushing it makes it work. But then the other thing is this machine also really doesn't like that other mouse. I don't actually understand what's going on. I don't really get it, because we swapped the keyboard and that made no difference. So I wrote not keyboard for the problem, but I think it is the keyboard. At least now it is, now that I have a working mouse. I don't know. I bet you there's folks who are watching who are very familiar with the STs, and they probably know more about these particular types of faults, especially the 4 bombs in OIDs. Anyways, either way, I'm going to cross out not keyboard, and I'm going to write bad 9-pin with a question mark, because it seems that that's kind of the case. Obviously we were able to run something, but now I can't move anything at all. All right, it's time finally to take a look at these original 520 STs. I have an external floppy drive, but I can't find it. And I don't think James gave me one, so we're not going to be able to even run any software on these machines. The other thing is I'm going to have to use this single power supply that I don't know for sure if this works. So if this first computer doesn't seem to work at all, then we'll have to hope that one of them kind of works, and that will validate that this power supply is actually okay. As I mentioned, I do have another 520 ST, the same exact form factor as this, and it has the same huge power supply. That means that if I really had to, I could go find that machine. It's just, there's a lot of stuff in the basement right now. I don't feel like going to find that. So hopefully this power supply does work. 5 volts plus 12 minus 12. That's the voltages that this thing outputs. The thing is, the DIN, this is probably testable actually. It's a 7-pin DIN, large style DIN, and it's the female jack, which means it's easier to probe because you can just stick the probes directly into it. But no need to get ahead of myself because the power supply might be working, and this is the machine that has white screen, sometimes boots, according to the label it's on here, and this is the working mouse. We'll turn that on. The computer didn't do anything, but there's a power switch on the back. Turn that on. Okay, there we go. It's definitely coming alive, so that means this power supply obviously works. Now with no floppy plugged in, it's going to be trying to read from the floppy drive. It's going to sit there and read for a while before we get the GEM desktop. Okay, I'm back, and this thing's been sitting here for several minutes and it has not booted, but I decided, because I wouldn't really be able to test these properly without a floppy drive, I decided to go back into my crawl space, and I saw that the floppy drive was actually reachable. I also found this, Atari ST chips and parts. And sure enough, in here I have basically the main chips and some sockets and things like that I think viewers have sent me over the years. So that's great. I think that'll be necessary for at least fixing some of these things. And there it is, the Atari ST314. That's the 3.5-inch floppy drive for this thing. And this was donated, looks like by Danny. And there it is, highly yellowed, but I recall that it works. It also has a power supply, the matching cable. Let's see if this is the power supply. Yes, another giant brick. Oh, look, and cartridge. This is that desk accessory cart that I have for these machines. Okay, here's the big Atari brick. Outputs 5 and 12 volts. I don't quite get why the computer doesn't power this drive, since the power supply that goes into the computer has all the necessary voltages, but for whatever reason, it is not powered by the computer. So let's turn this all back on again. Nah, the floppy drive's not even doing anything at all. I should probably plug in one of the working computers just to make sure this floppy drive does work. Let's do that real quick. This is number 2 machine that is working. And there we go, boot it up. Let's pop in, I don't know, this Lemmings disk. Or here, we'll stick TOS 2.06 into this external drive. We'll try the B drive here. Uh-oh. It is not working. I'm pretty sure I've used this disk drive in the past. It's definitely set to the on position. There's in and out for I/O connections here. So yeah, it's plugged into the in. I assume the out is for daisy chaining to other machines. Let's double check here that everything is plugged in correctly. Okay, let's turn this all back on. Ugh, and of course this thing freaked out. I won't fix it right now. See, what it's saying right here is please insert disk B into drive A. Oh, everyone, you know why the drive doesn't work? Because it's not plugged in. Okay, let's try that again. There we go, turn everything back on. I heard the drive spin just there. And it's running right now as well. Okay, there we go. There we go. That would be probably the Lemmings disk or yeah, Lemmings, I guess it's a bootable disk, so it doesn't show anything. Okay, it's always good to make sure your stuff works, and I had the most basic problems there. Power not plugged in. Now, we've seen it before where the Ataris do boot with no disk in the drive, but I vaguely remember if you have no drive connected, that can sometimes hang the system up. All right, here we go. We are ready. Everything is actually good now. Turn this on. The drive didn't spin or do anything though. Just gonna power cycle the Atari with the drive already plugged in and powered up. Oh, there goes. It's actually booting as far as I could tell. Okay, well, it was trying to boot. Oh, there it is. Oh, wow. Well, the mouse is not working correctly. Really? Do I have it in the wrong port somehow? Nope. And by the way, we're using the good mouse, the one that definitely works. I'm just wiggling the connector around. I have it in port 1, the mouse, and now it's not working at all. Well, I'm gonna hit the reset button on the back. Definitely we have faults here. Definitely we have faults. It is booting right now. I could try booting a game. Yeah, no mouse activity. What's going on with all these mouse problems? Also, one thing is that I have the utilities disk in and it's write protected, and this boots to medium res, so 640 by 200, and it's not. So it's like it's not reading this. This drive may not be working though. We might think that the drive's not working, but remember I had the Lemmings disk in there and it didn't give us a disk error or anything like that. So it kind of implies this machine is still acting up. I'm gonna take the disk out, reset the machine, and I'm assuming it's gonna take the same normal amount of time while it tries to access the disk and there's nothing in there. We'll get the white screen for a while. Yeah, that looks like that's the case. All right, problems on this machine. Mouse not working. Yeah, it's just sitting here. Let's put the disk in, see if it starts to load it. It's not doing anything. We got issues. So mouse not working. Seems like it can't read the floppy drive. And I suppose we can test that by inserting one of these game disks in here. We'll put OIDs in. Actually, now it's not booting at all. It's not even trying to access the drive. So this is that problem. power cycle it. I'm going to write that down. Sometimes stuck at white screen. So 3 faults so far. Yeah, here we are. This problem's back. I'm going to try a little bit of percussive maintenance. Bang the computer on the desk. That helped. It took a long time before it actually started accessing the drive. And look, it's not reading the drive at all. And the mouse is not working. Part of me wonders if the part of the computer that processes the mouse and the floppy drive is the same. Like, I don't know if it uses a dedicated floppy controller or if, like the Amiga, it's just using one of the CIA or VIA chips to access the drive. If that's the case, well, yeah, it could be related. Like, maybe those are both handled on the same chip. Maybe. In fact, very possibly, like, the keyboard's not working as well. I know Control-Delete works on my STE, but that seems to not work on these older machines. And just so we can tell for sure that there's no issues, this is my 1040 STE, and this was the GoTech, and I have the B drive connected up, and let's just make sure I can read that drive. Yeah, there it is. This is, well, I don't know, OIDs, I suppose. And I'm going to swap over to my utilities disk, and we'll try running something off the utilities disk, because when I tested it earlier, I didn't actually see if I could read a fully functional disk. Yeah, let's try running sysinfo off the floppy drive, the external floppy drive. Yeah, it's reading fine. I remembered this drive worked. There it is, running off the external floppy drive. Works perfectly. Cool, okay. Drive definitely 100% working. That other machine's got a bunch of faults, which I wrote on here. Mouse not working, can't read drive, and sometimes stuck at white screen. Okay, here's machine number 5. This thing's a kind of rough shape. Some of the issues on here, it says red light dead, I think, something like that. And then looks like someone put really 2 long screws through the case, at least in these 2 positions, so it actually started breaking through. Let's turn this all on. Drive is on. Turn on the computer. There we go. Oh, okay. No image. So we get a red light, power light that is, but no output from this machine. Let's let it sit a second and see if it actually tries to boot anything off the disk drive. Make sure everything is plugged in. Yes, everything's plugged in. So far, nothing. Oh, there's no disk in there. Let's try that again. Power the computer off. Power back on. Because maybe we're just having a problem with the display. But if it actually tries to boot. But I have a feeling this is a black screen, as in this machine is totally, totally dead. Now, this may have chips harvested from it, for all we know. Who knows? That could be why it's totally dead, or chips could have popped out entirely. Part of me is curious about the fact that maybe it's got no chips. So let's just quickly pop this open. Should be pretty easy. Oh, missing screw. And we know someone's been in this thing because we had the incorrect screw popped through in 2 positions on the case. So that sort of screams someone was harvesting parts out of this. What has happened to this poor computer? Yeah, this is like a wood screw. I'm throwing that in the trash. Don't need that to go back into one of these. Okay, here we go. Let's lift this off. See what's missing. What is happening here? What is this? Someone taped up the ferrite thing on here thinking that it was somehow potentially bad. Oh, there's rust inside of here. All right, well, looking at this, we obviously have these 2 ICs. The ROMs are installed correctly. What's under the shield? Let's pop the shield off. I think this chip here is called the shifter. That's what does the video display output. It is installed. Let's just make sure everything is in correctly. Yeah, that's in the correct way. Someone's obviously been inside of here. Give all these chips a little push. Double check the pin 1 is in the correct position everywhere. That is right. That is good. That chip is incorrectly. This chip is incorrectly. Yeah, everything is incorrectly. So I have the disk drive unplugged. Let's try turning this on again. Absolutely nothing out of the video. Nothing at all. And we do have the, oh no, we don't have the power LED on because the computer is off. Oh look, my banging around did something. Interesting. Ignore the squish thing, of course. Interesting. So we have a little bit more sign of life out of this. Kind of a yellow color, and with white garbage being displayed as well. I spent a second to kind of tilt the chips out of the sockets and push them back in. I didn't actually reseat anything. That didn't do anything at all. Let's just quickly, I just popped this PLCC chip out, deoxed it in the socket. Just curious if this could actually fix something right off the bat. Push that one back in. Let's see if that made a difference. Nope. And that one there. And then this chip, all I'm doing is just lifting it out of the socket a little bit. I'm not actually taking it out altogether, just enough to get deoxit around its pins. And then we give it a good push back into the socket. So all of these are back in. Ah, look at that. Look at that. So I wasn't intending to fix things in this video, but obviously that did the trick. Oddly enough, there are no floppy drives even listed. Is that what happens with these if you don't have the drive connected? Let's plug the drive back in. There it is. Power up the drive, power up the computer. Look at that. It's just booting. It is just booting. And it actually read that disk as well. Is the mouse connected? It is not. All right, mouse is in. Oh, that's not working still? What is happening? Am I plugged into the wrong port for the mice? Or is this mouse? Oh, there we go. I think the mouse plugs into port 2. I tried both ports on the other machine, the one with the faulty, well, that wasn't reading the discs and stuff, but this is definitely working now. Cool. And the fact this is in high res is because it read that off the disk. And we can try things like the RAM test here. Keyboard back in position. It's asking if it's an ST RAM test or TT RAM test. So we'll do S for ST. It's funny that this looks a bit different compared to the other machines where it had the graphical patterns running. I'm not sure why. Either way, it is running past 2, so the RAM test worked. Let's do a quick reset. Maybe what I should do is let's try booting OIDs. That seems to be the good test. And the speakers are hooked up, so we should have music, if there is music. I'm sure there is. Oh, OIDs was hacked. Okay, yes, I thought that was a crash for a second. It was not. Oh yeah, a little swish sound with the intro there. Peel that off. You know, part of me makes me wonder if I should just go back to that previous 520 ST. And yeah, that looks good. It's got a little weird interference in the video. That could be the capture device, or maybe this thing needs a little bit of a mod on the board to correct that. Or the power supply, I suppose, could be acting up. Hopefully you can see there's some weird patterns in the background there. That may be a capture device and the way it's interacting with this machine. I didn't see it on the other ones. Perhaps, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's just a capture device. All right, yeah, keyboard's working well. Oh. Still didn't figure out how to fire. The right shift or left shift is the shield. Well, either way, right now I'm going to say that this machine is fully operational. I think I should go back to that previous one, and we're gonna reseat the PLCC chips because those seem to be problematic. It really feels like Atari used some really crappy sockets, and they're also weird. They're non-standard. So I have a whole bunch of extra sockets of the same exact size, but the pin configuration are staggered on 99% of those sockets out there in the world. But for whatever reason on Ataris, the pins on the motherboard are all lined up horizontally and vertical. So you can't just swap in existing sockets that you buy, you know, anywhere. Anyway, number 5 machine, 520 ST, it works. So let's go back to the number 4 machine. I'll open this up. It's got all the screws. And this one still has RF shielding on it. Shielding on here is just held on by these little twisted tabs and a few screws. Well, looking at this one, it's been opened before because it actually has 1 meg of RAM. Someone piggybacked RAM chips on top and did a whole mod. There's some tape on there. And then we also have the little holders, downers, on the PLCC chips. So it could easily be that our issue is this RAM upgrade that someone did at some time in the past, and the connections, which seem solidly done, but maybe they're flaky. Especially the fact that this thing can't read floppy drives. And incidentally, I see we have a floppy drive controller here, a WD1772, but this still could be somehow driven off one of like the VIAs, and this might be a VIA chip here. I'm not positive. It's got an Atari part number on it. And then we have some MC6850s as well. I don't know what those do. This one's in a socket though, blue socket. I don't know if that's original or what. Okay, I plugged the keyboard back in and I plugged the floppy drive back in. It's still not reading the floppy drive. Plug in the mouse into the port that I know is the correct mouse port. That just works now. So there's no problems with the mouse, at least after doing what I just did. But yeah, I think I have the OIDS disk in here and, why didn't it boot off of it? Because it's reading it. That doesn't make sense. So this machine definitely appears to be working better. Probably have to power cycle it a bunch of times just to make sure. Oh, it's booting the disk, all right. It's definitely booting off the disk. There it goes. So this is definitely, definitely working better than it was. Very interesting how this machine, I mean, all I did was push down on all the ICs that were socketed. I didn't even really lever them out. I just sort of pushed them down and magically the machine appears to be working way better now. Also curious is the interference pattern that we saw on the other machine is on this one as well. So this is obviously a capture problem and not related at all to the machine itself. I'm gonna reset the machine and I'm just gonna quickly lever out all the chips just a little bit. This is my way of doing it in a way that doesn't risk bending pins because you don't pull any pins out of the socket. I just want them to move around in the sockets. So we'll do that with all of these and then just give them a push back in. Okay, those are all the ROM chips, this big chip, and whatever that chip in the blue socket is. The PLCC ones have the little brackets to hold them in, so I don't think those are a problem. And I guess the shifter, should I do the shifter? Let's do the shifter IC. Okay, there's the shifter. I just noticed the RF modulator is connected with this like cable that just runs out from under the shield. That is pretty hilarious. That feels like a bodge. Okay, let's power this back up to make sure we're still good. Yeah, it just starts to boot instantly. No more issues. It is accessing the drive. So this machine's fixed as well. All that was wrong with it was simply, I guess, bad connection in one of the other sockets, not the two PLCCs. Okay, OID's booted up without issue. I'm going to reboot, and we're going to run the RAM test. I want to see it test the 1 megabyte. Well, we can run sysinfo as well, and then we can do the RAM test. And there we have it, 1 meg of RAM. So TOS 1.00, original TOS from 1985. I don't know if there was a version before that was available when this thing first came out, like a less than 1.0, but this has got the 1.0 version from November 20th, which incidentally is in just a few days. In fact, wow, in just a few days, it's the 17th right now when I'm making this video. In a few days, it will be the 20th of November, 2025, which means exactly 40 years from when this TOS version was made. It's not to say this computer came out that exact day, because of course the date on this is when the ROM was made. But yes, 40 years from TOS 1.0. Pretty awesome. And let's run yet another RAM test, just make sure all 1 meg is working now. Obviously, this sticker I made is not good. So TT-RAM, ST-RAM. You know what's funny here is like, obviously this thing's working now, and the other machine is working, the other 520 ST. Does that mean if I just go back into the other computers that were faulty, they would work as well by just simply pushing the chips down? Is that literally the fault on almost all Atari STs? Yeah, quite possibly, right? They don't have MOS chips in them, and we know how flaky MOS chips were when it comes to 64's issues. But yeah, pushing down those chips into sockets gets these machines working. We have one more 520 ST after this that definitely has a fault. I think it says yellow screen on the sticker. That was from James. And well, we already saw yellow screen on the other machine, the other 520, and me just pushing those PLCCs down fixed that issue. There we go. We're on pass number 2, which means 0 errors. That means the RAM is good. This thing runs games. This is a working machine now. So this number 4, none of this is accurate. This machine is fixed. I will also write that this has 1 meg of RAM and has TOS 1.0. Okay, we have our final machine today. It says bad IC yellow. Let's just open this up since we know it's gonna have the same problems with the sockets. It's got a missing screw in the middle. Okay, let's lift the lid. This one's got the shielding still. I could tell someone's been in here though because the tabs are bent. And it's missing a screw right there. In fact, it's got 2 screws holding the motherboard down on the front edge. Okay, that lifts right off. And yep, this is how to RAM upgrade as well. So these 4 chips are in sockets and the rest are not. That's interesting. I'm surprised that clears the keyboard. Thought there were issues with that when it came to keyboard clearance. Let's give those a little push. I'm gonna just, well, let's turn it on first actually before I do too much more, because we want to see exactly what this machine is doing. No floppy drive plugged in. Let's turn this on. Huh, got nothing. Let's plug in the keyboard so I can see if the power LED comes on. Power LED is coming on, but we get no video whatsoever. So you know the drill. I'm just gonna tilt out all the chips again. Not completely out of the sockets, just enough so that when I push them in, it kind of scratches the oxides off the pins. Oh, this one has a floppy controller in a socket. I don't remember that one being in a socket. Oh, the CPU's in a socket. And that's in a round hole socket. So this thing probably has had issues in the past, and someone obviously has worked on it, besides the RAM upgrade that's happened on here. And the shifter, oh, this has the RF modulator. Let's see what that does before actually do anything. We got a flash on the screen, but still nothing. Okay. So now the 2 PLCC chips, which on this one, they do not have the little brackets. They are installed with pin 1 in the correct position. Of course, I don't know for sure if they're the right chips, like if someone took them out and swapped them around. All right, deoxit. If you don't have deoxit, I'm sure just some contact cleaner is good enough. Also, just taking them out of the sockets and putting them back in is probably good enough. We'll just pop those back in. Okay, power the computer. Aha! Well, that's interesting. Did change what we're getting. Let's turn that off and on. Let's look at what that does. That's a cool pattern, isn't it? Then it goes to black, goes away to black. Just checking everything is installed correctly. This could easily just be a RAM issue. What I didn't do is try to lift these RAM chips out a little bit. Now, the links that go across all of them, this connects the CAS and RAS lines, the extra CAS and RAS lines, they're solid. Yeah, there's a couple flexible wires that go down to the motherboard right here that connect to the additional RAS and CAS lines for the second bank of memory. But I'm just gonna carefully lift these out just a little bit, just to get them moving. Now, I can't tell what the original RAM is, what brand it is, but of course 256K RAM, which is what's on here, is less problematic than, say, MT64K RAM. Oh, this is all weirdly crusty on this chip. All right, there we go. Now we're back to having nothing. Now let's see what happens on the Atari if you take the CPU out, because I'm unfamiliar. Nothing. This CPU, this has been desoldered. But the socket on here is definitely not original. Just putting some deoxit in the pins. Weird, we were getting a little bit of something there, and now we just get a little flash and a big fat nothing. Aha! I took the shifter out and put it back in, and we're getting the beeping because of the keyboard not being connected. Just unplug the sound, and a whole lot of those. Yeah, it just goes directly to a full screen. A full screen of bombs. Well, what that tells us for sure, I'm just reseating these PLCC chips again. Aha. This could be a bad socket, actually, everyone. Because I took this chip out and put it back in, and now the behavior changed dramatically. Yeah, every time I touch this chip, it kind of changes. I'm just going to pop this chip out altogether. I'm just going to check to make sure all these contacts are good, they're springy, because they can get a little squished after time. Yeah, they all seem okay. Oh, this one looks bad. Let's bend that one back out a little bit. Like it's just in bad shape and might not be making good contact, potentially. Okay, we're back to that again. Okay, I've just fixed the capture device. I think this socket's bad, and here's why. I'm going to focus a little bit more on what we see on screen there. And when I push down on this, watch Watch this little line at the top that shouldn't be there. Okay, well now it's not doing it. A second ago, it was changing. Let's hit the reset button. See, when I let go, it appeared. And I push in the corner, it appears. I see how there's these weird lines going through. Definitely have a fault of some kind here. Let's, I'm gonna push down on it. Yeah, they don't even look well formed. There's definitely something going on here. I'm pushing the reset button while I push down on the chip. Okay, this is interesting. So I'm pushing on the other chip now, and look, it booted. Yeah, we got bad sockets. And as soon as I let go, it crashed. Oh, we have bad freaking PLCC sockets. Unbelievable. Look, I just banged on it. I think we might have a working system for the moment. It's not going to be reliable though. But I bet if I touch these chips, it's going to crash. Yes, there it goes. It crashed right out. Part of me wonders if we can get this to like boot enough so I can at least run a RAM test. So let's plug in the floppy drive and the mouse. Okay. That's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. Okay, I just pushed this chip in a little bit more, the one on the right, and it's actually booting the disk drive, but it's crashing. Come on. You're so close to working. Okay, it's booting the OS. Here we go. I'm just not going to touch anything. Let's see if we can run the RAM test. I just want to rule out that we don't have any issues with this RAM expansion that someone did. So we run... Oh, I was running the wrong RAM test. That's why it wasn't doing the graphics mode. There's one for the TT. That's another version of the ST, and that's what I was running. Yes, there we go. People are probably screaming at their screen saying, you are running the wrong one. Okay, that doesn't look right. It still says error 0, but clearly it's not quite working correctly. There's got to be a way to try to fix up these sockets. There's got to be. And I'm wondering maybe like a fiberglass brush rubbing on the contacts with the chip removed, of course, might make it work a little better. I mean, obviously the deoxit helped a little. Yeah, we're getting errors here, but I can't quite trust that the RAM errors are legit. It says 25 and it crashed right out of there. Yeah, I sort of feel like I'm gonna take the chip out again. Maybe with a fiberglass brush, which I think I have one right here. Yeah, it's these things here, these little polishing brushes. Maybe if I just carefully rub up and down, and it will kind of polish the contacts a little bit, which might help, maybe. I suppose I could do the same thing on the chip itself, although this seems fine. I don't see any issues at all, but I'll do the same anyways. Sometimes the pins on the chips get pushed in a little bit. You could just use a little tool to push those back out. Yeah, this chip is in great shape. I don't see any issues. Of course, what's on the end of the polishing thing here is a bunch of black stuff. So obviously it's cleaning it, or it's getting some of the oxidation off. I think it kind of works. Okay, let's try that. Pin 1. Let's make sure I have pin 1 in there correctly. It has a dot on the chip and there's a 1 on the motherboard. Okay, that one's in. Let's see if that made a difference. Nope. I'm just going to do the same thing on the second one here because we know that these are a pair of bad sockets. Okay, well, if anything, I made it worse because we're just back to this again. So, okay, if I push the chip down into the socket, it's booting the OS. Yeah, there it goes. So really, without a doubt, we know exactly what's wrong with this machine, and we know that it's got bad sockets. Let's see if it can pass the RAM test. It's still doing this weird thing where this shows up on a second line there. I don't know what's up with that. We could easily have bad RAM as well. Let's see if it gets exactly the same RAM errors, like 25, and then crashes out, then I know maybe we do have bad RAM or bad RAM upgrade. And my hand is getting tired holding in the chip. But it's the only way this machine will run right now. It's on test number 3, moving instructions 8-bit pattern 1010 and 0 errors at this point. So this sort of tells me that the RAM's not bad, and really these sockets are causing 100% of this computer's problems. Yeah, I think this is ready to hit the second pass, and we're at 0 errors. Well, that tells us that these sockets are the culprits. Still 0 errors. We're doing a random pattern right now. Takes a bit longer because we have a meg of RAM versus 512. There we go, past 2, no errors. I'll let go, it's probably gonna crash. Okay, so in my box of parts for this, I have Atari connectors and sockets. Let's look at what this is. So we have 2 brand new PLCC sockets and a few DIN connectors as well. Looks like that has just frozen, by the way, when I took my finger off. So that's cool. So I actually have some of those, but I only have 2, and this thing needs 2. So the question is, should I use my only 2 sockets for all of these Ataris to fix this one machine? Or should I save the sockets for use on a machine that's more worthy? And by the way, I wrote Greg on here, so I guess Greg is the one who sent in all this stuff. It is. If it is, thank you very much, Greg, for that. So comment down below, let me know what you think, or if there are any tactics for trying to fix these sockets. For instance, more of what I was doing, polishing, bending out the pins. Maybe some of those tactics work. If you've had good luck with that, please let me know. But at least we do know for this machine, the only fault it has are the bad sockets. It appears to work perfectly if I push down on those PLCC chips. Okay, there we are, number 6, bad PLCC sockets, but it's okay otherwise. Now, one thing I didn't try is that other mouse, the optical mouse. Let's just plug in this working number 5 machine. And let's try the golden image mouse, see if that does work or not. I don't have the floppy drive plugged in, which is why we don't have anything. And yes, it works, but very badly. I assume it really needs to work on a mouse pad. So on a mouse pad, it's terrible. You can see how shaky it is. So it does work, like I could click on stuff. Yeah, that's fine. But the mouse pointer is horrible. So it obviously must use some kind of a special mouse surface that allows it to work better. And even this Star Trek cat mouse pad is not good enough for it. It is not happy with that. Just for fun, I have a gray mouse pad right here. Let's try that. Maybe that works better. Not really. Oh, this is so horrible. Look how jerky the mouse is. Whatever mouse pad this came with must have worked better, because this is absolutely trash, just trash. 1985, this must be TOS 1.0 as well. I guess I'm curious about testing the bad mouse, the one that was not working correctly on the other machines. How about on these original machines? You know what? On this machine, it works absolutely perfectly. So if you went in circles, it really ended up going near the top of the screen, but this one moves normally. How interesting. So 520 STs works perfectly. Maybe there's a resistor value you have to change, but this is definitely the one that was the problem. I had to put a black dot on there so I could tell it apart. This one was bundled with another 520 ST, one of the original short ones though. So perhaps this one really only works with the short ones, and it's the later ones that we have a problem. And since I deoxidated the buttons, that seems to work fine. Right, we're done with all the testing. All 7 machines have been tested. So machine number 1, this was from Philip. This one just has a bad floppy drive, but otherwise this one seems to work fine. I suppose I could have plugged in a second floppy drive and tested at least sysinfo and the RAM test and stuff, but my assumption is this machine is fine and it just needs to have the top floppy drive serviced or fixed or replaced, something like that. Here is machine number 2. This is from James, 520 STFM, and this one just works fine. I thought I had mouse issues, but the reality was that first mouse I was testing with was problematic, and that's this one, but using the other Atari mouse works fine on this machine. So awesome, working machine. And then we have machine number 3. This is the one that does have problems. It has a problem with the mouse input on the keyboard. It seems to be a physical problem. And when I use this second mouse, if I bent it the right way, it did work. This one also crashes when you run OIDs. And we haven't gotten to the bottom of what's wrong with this, but it could just be bad contacts in the sockets again. So this one definitely needs a repair in the future, as does, of course, machine number 1 with that bad floppy drive. Here's machine number 4. This is a regular shorty 520 ST. I thought this one was bad, but the reality was we just had to reseat all the sockets and especially the PLCC, and now it just works. This one came from James. It's TOS 1.00 and it has 1 meg of RAM. Someone did a RAM expansion in the past. Machine number 5, this one has 512K of RAM. This one just works. Well, I think it didn't work. I had to reseat the chips, and then it just works perfectly, as not at this point. And that's with some deoxit in the sockets. It's a little bit dirty. Otherwise, this one's in pretty good shape. And then machine number 6, bad PLCC sockets, but okay otherwise is one we were just working on, where when I held down those chips into the sockets, we were able to get it to boot and test all 1 meg of RAM. Oh, I should write that it has 1 megabyte just for my recollection, someone did an upgrade on this. So yep, there we go. 1 meg of RAM. Question is with this one, of course, is should I use those brand new sockets to fix this or not? Condition-wise, this is quite good, and I know I have another Shorty 520 ST that went with that floppy drive, but I think it was super duper yellowed, and this one might be the keeper machine, and the yellow one will be the one that I give away. But the yellow one has never had any kind of issues, as far as I'm aware at least, with any of the sockets or whatnot. And then the final machine is this one, which I'm now renumbering to number 7, and this is the Mega ST2, which I don't know if this is an STE or not. I think it is. We're missing the battery door, and I don't have the keyboard or any way to hook a keyboard up to this, but it does seem to work as it boots up. I just couldn't really do much testing. So a big question to all the people watching who are Atari experts is, what do I do about the lack of keyboard on this thing? Should I take the keyboard that has the mouse ports on it out of one of the Atari 520s, the large ones that is, that has the mouse ports on the keyboard, and make an adapter to use with this, and then somehow 3D print some kind of case to hold that keyboard? I know that would result in sacrificing one of those other 520s, but I think this is a cooler machine and a little bit more rare. So if I have to take the keyboard from one of those 520 STs to make this thing work, then I think I'm okay with doing that. This thing definitely needs a good cleanup, and I have to 3D print the battery door, but it looked okay otherwise on the inside. And there's that modular connector for the keyboard / mouse that plugs in right there. And I think it's pretty cool that you can have an internal hard drive in this, and obviously there's a knockout here. I didn't even notice this for external expansion, I suppose. And I don't really know what type of expansions ever were made for this thing. But I do have at least one, but maybe 2 Ultra Satans, which are hard drive emulators for these Atari machines. And that'd be kind of cool to install one of those internally to this. And this could potentially be my go-to Atari once I have the whole keyboard mouse situation sorted. All right, well, that's going to be it for this video on the second channel, triaging / repairing, you know how it goes. I obviously have a ton more to do because you saw what I brought home from James's place. The car was full and there's stuff all over the house right now. So I really need to kind of start organizing, and that was what I was trying to do here. If stuff is working or fixed or I made it work, then it's quick and easy for me to move it on. Otherwise, yeah, it's going to go into a pile somewhere where I can do future repair videos. Also, thanks to Big Steve for this Mega ST2 at some point in the past. And thank you for Philip for sending me in that other Atari ST that I worked on in this video. If you enjoyed this video, thumbs up. If you didn't know exactly what to do, huge thanks to my supporters. They make it possible to do this full time. My subscribers as well, a big thanks to them. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. It really makes a big difference if you are subscribed or not. And I think that's going to be that. So stay tuned for more Atari content, but there'll be a bunch more of everything else as well as per usual. And stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.